Hey, yo!
Let me talk to you!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good evening, everyone. What it is, what it was, what it could be, my NWA fam. Glad to see you all out there. It's the Other Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and rumors and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. I am Tim. I have come, but unlike our world's heavyweight champion, I have not brought hell with me. I have brought these two handsome gentlemen here. He's wrestling with the MMA. Jeremy, how are you today?
Doing well. This beard is brought to you by Cremo.
Yeah, well, nice, looking sharp. And Dave Scooby, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Good. We are having trouble streaming on Twitch, I'm told, but maybe it's corrected itself. It's difficult to say. I'll leave that to Jay in case he's in the house tonight. Before we get to the chat, and thank you everyone for being here, just touching on what we're going to be looking at this evening. We will, as per usual, do the deep dive on NWA USA from this past Saturday and touch on the NWA Power from yesterday. Jeremy's going to have those sweet UWN results from Memphis and Hollywood. I'm going to lead a roundtable, hopefully with lots of input from the chat around whether or not we ought to be recognizing some other NWA World's Heavyweight Champions that currently, by all accounts, aren't being recognized. And Dave Scooby, our in-house fantasy booker, he's going to book something around Aaron Stevens. What's up his sleeve? What are we going to do with all of his little fingers and all of his little pies right now? So, unfortunately, we do have some sad NWA news to start off with. PWI Insider is reporting that former NWA President Howard Brody has passed away today following some complications from a recent quadruple bypass surgery. Mr. Brody, see if I can get that up there in a way that doesn't cover all of. There we go. That's pretty good. Mr. Brody was, I believe, a co-president originally of the National Wrestling Alliance from 93 to 95, and then acted as president from 96 to 2001. He really, by all accounts, tried to make tried to make the NWA even more prominent than it was during the time, the late 90s, the early 2000s. Tried against upstream, should we say. He was swimming upstream. And I know that he's very, very well thought of in the wrestling community. Some of the things, individual things that he's most noted for, this from Wrestling Observer. He was noted for, we know that he made some distribution deals for Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling near the end that helped turn that around and keep Jim from losing his shirt. He was the first promoter to bring wrestling and MACW to China in 2003. He was the point person for the sale of Puerto Rico's WWC library to the World Wrestling Entertainment. And he was also author of Swimming with Piranhas, Surviving the Politics of Professional Wrestling, as well as co-authoring Dusty Rhodes' autobiography. This is an excellent book. It is available on Amazon. I highly recommend it. It chronicles his life in the sport, wounds and all, the things he did right and the things he did wrong. I really enjoyed it. So sad to hear that this evening, but we will turn things around and get on a positive note here. as we dive into season 3, episode 9, I believe, of the of NWA USA, the season finale. I was looking forward to this one on Saturday. How about you guys?
Yeah.
It's always difficult as we come near the end of a taping cycle. We've talked about, on the episodes we've had here, in kind of keeping some of the rhythm going, and having something left in the can that is worth watching. So let's get into this one. If you're in the chat, speak up. I see some people, but I don't see any comments yet. So love to say hi. We start cold open with Mercurio versus Matt Vine. So Mercurio and Vine, they kind of jackjaw in the ring, with Mercurio putting a finger in Vine's face a few times until Vine kind of grabs it and punches him in the face. He's aggressive with the hair pulling and the strikes to the face, and that hip toss that you see from our thumbnail that Jeremy put together. That was a heck of a bounce. There's a nice rising knee strike and an elbow jaw comeback from Mercurio. Vine gets some offense, but this is designed to tell Mercurio's story. He dodges a super kick. He makes Vine eat whatever he calls his unprettier. I don't know. And it's a quick one. It's 4.5 minutes long. Jeremy, what did you think of the match?
Going into it, I knew that Vine was going to take the loss because it was his debut. I'd like to see that change up at some point. I'd like to not already know what's going to happen going into it. It was a match. It kind of went too quick. Started off kind of slow for me with the jaw jacking at the beginning there. I do want to see more of Matt Vine. It got me, I'm intrigued to see more of what he's capable of.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Matt Vine, Dave?
I think he has an upside. He definitely has the size. He has the look. I realize that they have to start off as quote-unquote enhancement talent. I wish they would actually put two enhancements against each other rather than, make them fight for a spot.
Yeah.
Mercurio, he is what he is. He does have talent, and I think him working with some of the younger up-and-comers can help them. And it's not always a loss. It's someone went over and someone got over. Matt Vine, I think if he stays with the NWA, build him up a little, give him a few wins, and then put him on Power. Even in a loss, moving up from USA to Power, it's a step. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's really being billed that way, isn't it? The two shows, and to both of your points, a guy like Matt Vine is exactly the kind of guy we ought to be. The NWA, ought to be investing some energy and time into, precisely because he's he's got such an upside. It was over quick, and later in the match, we're going to see a main event that, in my opinion, went way too long. So maybe some of that time could have been used for some of this, but we'll talk about that. Our friend Willie Bowen is in the house. Hello, Willie.
Hello, Willie. Thank you for joining.
And he's right off the bat. If Tyrus were one of the Marx Brothers, he'd be called Blimpo. I swear you sit at home and you think about these things on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Thank you, Willie. You make us laugh. I needed that after today. So we move on from that. We get Kyle Davis with Pretty Empowered at the podium. Kyle notes, you're not always cohesive. which speaks to what we've been saying before about this team. They seem to have a face in Kenzie and a heel in Ella, which is interesting. Kenzie says, Ella knows who our opponents are well, frankly, at this point, it's not clear. Something called Celebration 74, which to my knowledge has not been spoken about anywhere at any point before this, even on social media. So I'm kind of, but yeah, Ella knows who their opponents are. And they haven't talked about it before now. And Ella says they're going to fight each other. And it's a great idea. And she doesn't understand why Kenzie Page isn't getting it. And, it's a bit clunky. Kyle kind of says, well, I guess this is to see who's in charge, and it's just a friendly competition. And, Ella says, don't worry about it. Why would I want to screw up like the World Tag Team Championship in this team? So Kenzie kind of reluctantly agrees. And yeah, apparently this match will be to see who the boss is of Pretty Empowered. I thought it didn't make a lot of particular sense because of the continuity and sort of awkwardly delivered. But Dave, what did you think about the segment?
Well, like you said, it was a little clunky. I'm not sure where they're going with this. All I can really think of is there's mention of a women's TV title that down the line, I think Kenzie would be a good representation for the NWA if they do a women's TV title. I'm not sure if the Hex are going to take the belts back at 74. But, I mean, you got to keep them strong. And, I mean, it's sort of up in the air, the good and the bad of the team of Pretty Empowered. That Kenzie's not always a goody two-shoes, but she's the better, not the better of the two. She has more of the right on her side.
Moral compass.
Yes, that she's the good side of the yin and the yang. That as a team they work well together, but there's good and bad. They play well off of each other, but I think she's finally noticing some of the stuff that Ella has done in the past for them to keep the belts. And it's almost by any means necessary, we're not losing these belts. And I think it's going to bite them in the ass, either at 74 or down the line, and it's going to just backfire, and they're going to end up losing the belts.
We're going to do a lot of predictions on the show, but Jeremy, do you see Pretty Empowered coming out of 74 with the tag team titles around their waist?
No.
No.
No, and it's because of the dissension. It's a very one-sided, manipulative partnership there. There were all kinds of red flags going off. If this was a relationship, counseling ain't fixing this one.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I don't think they're coming out of it. Like, I think they're really telegraphing this one. So unless there's, well, we do see more of them on Power later on, and we'll touch on that in a bit, but I don't think they come out as champs currently either. The Celebration 74 spot is then at this point in the show revealed to be on Power this week, and that everyone on the roster will be there, and that's kind of fun.
Everyone?
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they said.
Yeah, almost everyone. Not everyone. But we move on to May Valentine for the first time in the day. She is with Aaron Stevens, Rodney Mack, and Casey Rocks. I'm just gonna crack my neck because this one, you got to be limbered up to get through this one. Aaron says, that he's here giving back to Rodney Mack because years ago when he needed help, Rodney was there for him. And, he's also here mentoring Casey Rocks as a newcomer, the greenhorn, as he calls him, into the business. The subject between Babes and Sweetums then turns to going to Rio. Aaron says the NWA has picked up the bill. No one else is going. Can Casey Rocks watch the dog as they can't stay at the house, but when they're going to Rio, they try to include Rodney Mack, who quite correctly looks like he'd rather be anywhere else at this moment than in this segment. Jeremy, your thoughts?
Flaming hot garbage.
I wonder if we can get a little like flaming dumpster thing that we can scroll across the screen at some point.
It just, I don't. It's admirable of Aaron to be providing his services to Rodney Mack and to an up and comer like Casey Rocks.
Yeah.
I don't know how he hustled the tickets out of the NWA to get to Rio de Janeiro, but come on, man.
Yeah, Dave, you have this ability, I find, on this podcast to kind of look through some of the flaming hot garbage, as Jeremy calls it, and say, hey, here's a nugget in here that we can you find one in this?
Well, at least May is attractive looking. Something to look at for a couple minutes while they're jabbering. But Aaron seems to have his hand in all these different directions, his hand in the pie, per se. I'm not really sure where they're going direction-wise, but down the line, I could see Tyrus and possibly a few of the others getting involved if Aaron decides to come back and wrestle. That somebody's going to push his button so many times that he's just going to say, I'm out of retirement, or he's not even really in retirement. He's just not wrestling anymore. I think it's good to still have him on programming, but make it make sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it when we get to that fantasy booking you talked about around Aaron Stevens this week, because I think there's certainly some deeper dive to be done there. But great point. For me, it was a write-off. It was somebody saying, oh boy, USA needs 3 minutes filled this week. Who do we got standing around? So who knows? We get a replay of the World Junior match where Homicide beats PJ Hawks with the unfortunately named Cop Killer. The Fixers attacking, Luke Hawks trying to make the save, and what I like to privately call the Rockin' Rookie Express finally making that save and doing so. But I'm going to push past that one because I don't think we've seen that before. Then we get May again with Brady Pierce and Rush Freeman. And they're dressed like Fabulous Ones cosplayers right now. And although we and hopefully the viewership know why that is now, we don't at this point. As Scooby once famously said, continuity is not the NWA's friend, at least not right now. But they're a tag team now. Freeman. There's a couple things. He invokes Yuma's name, Captain Yuma's name, when he's talking about the Ill Begotten. How he started it with them. That was interesting to me. Brady says they're here to prove that he and Freeman have more talent that you can find in Rush Freeman's little finger than the IBB boys have overall. I found them okay on the mic, but there are a couple of young bucks. Dave, what did you think?
I think it's good that they are expanding and adding tag teams using talent that is already in the NWA, not having to bring in outside talent. I'm looking forward to. They have several different teams that they could go after, and I think pushing them as quote unquote good guys can work up to a certain point.
Yeah.
I sort of rolled my eyes when I heard what name they had been given, and they're the Spectaculars. They're not fantastic, they're spectacular. Okay, but then I found it quite funny that Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics actually posted on Twitter, "Hey guys, looking good there, looking sharp. Hope you guys do well at 74." And that's a throwback to the Fantastics are NWA wrestlers, or were.
Right.
So I mean, if they can work it, bring in Bobby Fulton as a manager for 1 or 2 tapings, and you have 2 to 3 months worth of matches.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead, sir.
I mean, why not? They brought in past talent. I mean, Austin Idol's been there since almost the beginning. So why not bring in some of these, I'm not going to say old timers, but older past NWA wrestlers that have a connection. Granted, it's not the same NWA, but the past can become the future.
Yeah, La Rebellion, to your point, has is being managed or assisted by, anyway, Damien Cece's father.
Yep.
His name escapes me right now. Terrible of me, but yeah, that's a great point, Jeremy. These they're clearly at this point, even though we don't know their name. Again, the continuity just there needs to be some continuity manager like they have in movies to make these things happen. They're clearly an homage to, the Fantastics, the Fabulous Ones. How do you think the gimmick's going to fly?
Time will tell. I like both of the wrestlers. They both have good looks to them. I get why they're being gimmicked this way. As to Dave's point, this is kind of a throwback to the Spectaculars, or not the Spectaculars, but the Fantastics, and the old history of the NWA. And I think that's good. It's like Dave said, it's good to recognize the past because that helps build your future. So time will tell with them.
Yeah, that's really the niche of the NWA these days is focusing some TV time, especially on places like USA, on these young up and comers. And actually what I like about these two guys is that they're so green. I know that sounds weird, but we'll see them on Power. The next Power, the one that's just passed now. And they're crazy green, but there's something there, and it's cool that there's a platform like the NWA for them to use. We get that replay of next of Mac versus G's from Power, where G's attacked Rodney Mac after his loss, and that comedy spot between Aaron Stevens and Tyrus. And then we go right into the main event of Missa Kate and Casey Lennox, who we have both seen. Well, we've seen a little bit more of Missa Kate than we have Casey Lennox versus the Hex. And, there's some good treated armbar combos to start this between AK and Kate. Leads to multiple quick tags from the Hex and a series of tag team combos that largely work the shoulder. So the stories tell it pretty good right off the bat. The Hex looks really well polished with their stuff as always, and there's a bit of a clumsy comeback finally from Kate, who frankly recovers too fast from the beating I've found that she's been taking up to this point. Who doesn't tag out when there's a hot tag moment to be made. I just think it's experience and some work to be done there. So she tags to Lennox, who I'm positive wasn't working heel before this, but that's fine. She needs to. That's good. And then the tables turn. AK kind of fights from underneath for a while. There's a really long period of time where they work on Allison Kay, and the match seems to go long for me at this point. There's a nice double suplex, but finally a tag out from Allison. Marty's the house on fire, and in the end, I think Allison choke slams Kate while Marty uses the protect your neck for the win. It is a 10.5-minute match on a 35-minute show. Jeremy, your thoughts about the match, and then I guess also the match length.
It was nice to see the women getting a good chunk of time. I think it personally could have been utilized a little better, but the crowd was completely behind it, though. Whenever they made the hot tags, that crowd popped, and that was quite a loud pop compared to what I have heard in a majority of the other matches.
Right.
Misa Kate and Casey Lennox looked good together. They worked well with the multiple tags in and out. I'm interested to see if they go any further as a tag team together. It was a good match, though.
Yeah, Dave, I think there's a really big upside for Misa Kate in terms of ability. She seems like whenever I see her with the other newcomers in the ring, she seems to stand out for me. And Casey Lennox, I think, looks great, and is putting on lots of great facials. She seems a solid worker. What did you think of the match, and what do you think of them as a potential team?
As a potential team, why not? I mean, they worked well together. They haven't worked with each other enough to do blind tags and know how and when to respond to each other, but just give them time. I mean, the match itself was, like you said, a little long. They could have shaved off maybe a minute and a half. That if you have to do a move several times, I mean, if the first 2 times it doesn't affect the match, why keep doing it?
Right.
I mean, unless you're going for picking a body part and, okay, we're going to go after the knee. Well, you stomp it once, stomp it twice. After the 3rd time, your knee should be hurting already. Don't just keep pounding it. But, I mean, overall, I was glad that they gave the women some time on the show. And I think it's a foreshadowing of the Hex possibly getting the titles back. But I mean, Allison and Marty have worked against each other and with each other. They know each other.
Right.
They look like a team. That if you're going to put people together, have them work several times together. If it works out, that's great. That's when you start having matching, quote unquote, uniforms, or have a similar look. Have them come up with a team name. It's not just Misa Kate and Casey Lennox. We are so and so.
Right, for sure. I enjoy both of them. So I would like to see more teams like them put together, even if it's just for the short term. But I thought it was long. like I say, but I agree that it is nice to see an amount of time like this given to the women. Um, that's the show for NWA USA. We switch up into Power, Season 9, Episode 11, Celebration 74, which we've kind of learned over this particular show that we just watched is coming up on this past Tuesday now. Almost everyone in the roster at ringside. So when it's cold open right off the bat, you can see there's balloons in the ring. There's streamers. There's and it looks like the whole roster is got two sides of the ring or more maybe. Kind of put there, and it's sort of neat, like visually, just to kind of see Wrecking Ball Legursky in the same row as Kerry Morton, but like separated apart. Like someone put enough thought into it. Who wasn't there though? Right off the bat, Jeremy, you were alluding to it before.
Nick Aldis, but he was a producer.
That's true. That's true.
Well, maybe he was there in spirit.
I don't even know. Was Trevor Murdoch in the crowd? I know he comes out at some point, but I didn't see him in the crowd there either.
I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, it was just a neat visual, I guess. We let the OG Alliance Guys podcast go into the deep dives for Power, but right off the bat, the first match, once they kick the balloons or pop them out of the ring, is Chris Adonis versus Caprice Coleman, and like that's a great way to start a show. They both guys get their stuff in, and in the end, it's basically the Master Lock or the Holy Trinity reversed into the Master Lock by Chris Adonis for the win. It goes 8 minutes. Dave, what did you think of the start of Power?
I thought it was a good match for what it was, but I really don't understand why they had Adonis and Coleman face each other. There's really no backstory that I can think of. I mean, granted, Chris got a win and he's on his way. That he can build up a winning streak, possibly coming out of 74, depending on what he does there. But Caprice Coleman, I mean, wasn't he just going after Homicide and saying, "Hey, deal with me when you want to go in the ring for the junior heavyweight, give the man a call." Well,
Right.
Anything that you may have built up, he just lost. Granted, he went against Masters, who has quite a bit of size and is definitely not a junior heavyweight, but it's stop and go booking like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, Adonis could have faced anybody else, still won, and it wouldn't have hurt that other person unless that person is getting a push. I'm not sure where Caprice Coleman will end up. I mean, he is signed to ROH doing commentary, but until they're on TV, he gets featured every once in a while on AEW, but he's not wrestling.
Right. You kind of led me to where I was going to go with Jeremy. Caprice was out like a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, where he just stood on the other side of the mic from Homicide and smoked him. He just talked to victory. Like that's a 3 count at the podium right there. And here he is wrestling Adonis. Like Dave says, good match, but I don't know. What did you think of it?
Again, I'm as confused as Dave is on why these two were matched up against each other. It's kind of a not putting anything past Caprice Coleman because let's be honest, he just turned 45 in March. I turn 45 next month. I'm not walking out in front of a crowd for even 8 seconds with my shirt off, let alone 8 minutes. I don't look like that man. He's found the fountain of youth,
Yeah.
But it was an odd pair up. I didn't understand this.
Yeah. It was. I kind of wondered if, again, it was where we're talking about that segment with Rodney Mack and May and Aaron Stevens and Casey Rock. If it was just, all right, I got to fill 8 minutes on the show. Who do we got? Ooh, that'd be a good match. Neither one of them are actually in a feud, although,
Yeah.
like Coleman had been pointed, like Dave said elsewhere. But I guess it is what it is, and if you're going to throw something together, those are two pretty good guys to throw together.
And
Kyle-
it was competitive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I enjoyed the match. Again, for what it is, Kyle Davis is with Camille, Tom Latimer, and Kylan King. And there's champagne, and Camille kind of says, hey, we're good to King. Which I don't know. Isn't this a potential fight on the weekend? Isn't she the favorite to at least one of these nights? Like Kylan King, win the Burke Invitational. So I didn't really get how there's no build up here at all. But and Latimer just says he's going to be champ sooner or later. Jeremy, you got these three fine people at podium with Kyle Davis. What did you think?
Why was there no interaction really between Camille and Kylan? I want Tom to have gold too.
Right.
I'm in the same boat right there with you, big guy. I want you to have gold too. Get that gold. But you can't get it if I don't see you wrestling, and I haven't seen you wrestle in a minute.
Right. Dave, I kind of wondered when I was watching this if there's a team in the future looking for the women's tag team championship between Kylan King and Camille.
I was thinking more or less, if you can't beat them, join them. I'm not sure where Kylan is contract-wise. I know she's been featured on AEW the last couple of weeks, but she's a very good wrestler, and she makes anybody who is in the ring with her up their game and look good.
Yep.
And granted, whatever she decides to do, I know money is important, but I think she has a bigger upside over the next 6 months staying in the NWA and finishing up a storyline, whether it be she's an enforcer type for Camille, or they're a tag team, or who knows.
And I kind of get the impression that in reality, she's that kind of performer. Like I had read not too long ago that she did have an offer at, I think in AEW, and she kind of said, I'm going to go be my own master right now and do my own thing, but, I'll be back. And it would be, like, she does make everybody better, including, with no disrespect intended to Camille, 22 odd title defenses. Like she said, she tweeted this week, put some respect on my name. Yeah, you have our respect. But I think like a worker like Kylan really does help make people like her, the champions they are. And I agree. I think she's a great talent. Speaking of talents, we get Genocide versus Kayla Cassidy, who I've never seen before. And by the speed, that she was dispatched of by Genocide with the Jenna 9000, you may blink and miss her. I'm not sure we're going to see her for too much longer. She's decimated in, I don't know, I didn't even count this one. 2 minutes maybe. Jeremy, what did you think?
I wrote, "Good Lord, Genocide scares the hell out of me."
Yeah, she really looked the part today. Yeah.
That's the matchup that I want to see is Camille versus Genocide.
Yeah, I want to see it with some fire though. For whatever reason. But I agree. It is just a beatdown, Dave. What did you think of what you saw from Kayla Cassidy?
Being that she's a newbie on the block, she didn't do bad. She did some good selling.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought is build up Genocide. Her and Camille will meet eventually. And going back to if Kylan ends up leaving down the line, she could go over Kylan to put her out of the picture.
Right.
That more or less, I'm looking at Kylan is friendly with Camille, that it's almost a 4 horsemen type thing. You have to go through her to get to me.
Right.
So if down the line, I could see that story playing out if Kylan ends up leaving the NWA.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a good way to put a bow on it, and then you have an established talent that's already in the NWA going against your champion Camille.
Yeah, that's a great call. I think WPC is going to be calling you any day now. We get Kyle Davis, who I always say is my favorite person behind the mic or the podium in the NWA, which is to say no disservice to Joe Galley or anybody else, but Kyle Davis is great when he's holding the mic for other people. And we get the Cardona family right off the bat. And by and large, I couldn't stop laughing for a lot of this. I'd forgotten, when this is filmed, it's just like Matt's just been injured. But of course, the continuity that we see is like he's just about back now. But what made me laugh was, Kyle kind of said, what would have been without the injury? And VSK, he was decent on the mic, VSK. And I hope he gets more going for him in the NWA. Tells him to have some respect. He puts over Mike Knox, who's standing behind him. Mike says he's so excited that he's got this tables match coming up with Bully Ray, where he's gonna, put him through through a wooden table. Brian Myers is here, he says, just to watch Matt's back. And then Cardona takes the mic. I missed Matt Cardona. I'd forgotten how funny he can be, whether you're a huge fan or you're not. He says, I have a message. I have a message for the NWA. And you think that he's going to spew venom now, shoot fire. And he says, thank you. I want to say thank you for all of the kind words and the messages and the stuffed teddy bears, even if it is, sarcastic in his tone a little bit. He always kind of goes a slightly different way, Matt Cardona. And, he says, he made me laugh. He said he's almost ready. He's almost ready to come back after his injury. 74 would be better with him in the title match. He never lost it. Did they pin me? Did they make me submit? Did I lose the title? No. And he goes between like a regular voice and a screaming voice as he comes back and forth and sort of loses his mind a little bit. My favorite part is when he says, VSK, I love you. Noxie, I love you. Chelsea, you're the love of my life. I think he even says, Kyle, I love you, But you know what I love more than anything else? And he just screams the 10 pounds of gold. I want that more. I was laughing pretty hard in my living room. Jeremy, what did you think of Matt with the Cardona family and Kyle Davis?
When Matt said that he loved everybody, I felt that. It felt like diabetes, but I felt it. I want to know what kind of mattress that Mike Knox is sleeping on that he gets such good sleep. Brian Myers is a great friend. After all the hell that Matt Cardona has put Brian Myers through, that is a good friend to still have Matt Cardona's back like that.
Oh yeah.
This was a fun little segment. I enjoyed this one. This one was good.
Our chat is quiet again because we lost Twitch for the stream there. I think we've got significantly less people in the chat than usual, but so I'll try to spur Willie on, who I know is out there. I think pretty sure Matt Cardona is Willie's favorite wrestler. Dave, what did you think of this segment?
I thought it hit all the main points. It told the story real well. It's one of these things of he's blurring the line.
Yeah.
That I had posted a couple weeks ago. He ended up doing a interview with Gary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he's an asshole, but he's our asshole.
Right.
He may not be a full-time NWA talent, but I mean, for what he's doing, he's taking control of his career, doing what he wants, deciding where he works, and I'm like, you got to respect a guy for that. You may not agree with him, but I don't disagree with him.
You know, sorry, finish up. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it hit all the points, is what you said. It was like a great executed sports play. Like VSK, who I don't even think even has a match at the pay-per-view. He's like, hey, show some respect. We're the Cardona family. I'm putting it up to Noxie. Noxie's here's my match, you know. And then Brian Myers, who doesn't have anything either, is like, hey, I'm here for this guy, and just hand the ball to Matt Cardona and let him speak. Chelsea didn't even say anything. She just stood there and looked great, right? Because it was clearly a segment. Let's get Cardona back in the picture enough to make me even think, is he going to be a factor at 74 to, is he a threat like this coming weekend to the 10 pounds of gold without anybody seeing it coming? So it was a good segment. I really enjoyed it. We then get a match that I both loved, surprisingly, and hated, unsurprisingly. Jeremy gets it right off the bat, I could tell. You get the Dirty Sexy Boys versus Hawks RE versus Rhett Titus and Gustavo Aguilera, I think.
Yeah.
Look, we talked this last week. We were pretty fair, where we said, I think Jeremy, maybe it was Dave's, had said, when Tim Storm's away, Velvet has to get better. Velvet was atrocious during this, specifically this match.
Mm-hmm.
What's coming out of her mouth in the beginning of this match when there's a shimmy off, shimmy spot, a hip shaking spot with Dirty Dango and Gustavo that gets more and more, the word I'm looking for, I guess risque. It's not appropriate or anything, but Gustavo pulls out some flowers and throws them some petals at Dirty Dango, who eats one, and I laughed. But what was surprising past sort of this nonsense, which was a tag team elimination match, three teams in the ring, one guy gets eliminated, the whole team's gone. This was full of good wrestling for a tag team three-way dance. It could have been an awful match. It had some really good spots in it. It ends with PJ pinning Dango and Gustavo eating a power slam from Luke Hawx for Hawx RE to win. But there's this terrible spot in the middle where Dango comes out to Velvet and I guess tries to kiss her, and she slaps him, and then they both kind of grin at each other, and with Velvet talking about how she likes it. And I was just, like, look, yeah, that's the expression I was at there. The match was saved for me by what I thought was some pretty decent wrestling and what could have been a big cluster. But the stuff with the hips is one thing. The slapping, like, you're wasting TV time.
Yeah.
For me, Jeremy, what did you think of the match?
To your point about how good the wrestling was in the ring, I was curious as to just how many years of experience total there was in the ring. And there's roughly 91 years of experience total between the 6 men that were involved in that match, with Gustavo and PJ Hawks having the least amount. But I think we could probably honestly say that PJ Hawks has probably had his entire life's worth. So he probably had closer to 110 years worth of experience in that ring. So, and that really showed in the wrestling. Everything else that went on in between that, flaming hot garbage.
Yeah,
Completely unnecessary.
Dave, was it as bad as Jeremy and I think that it was, or did you see it a different way?
Well, the way I saw it, there was good wrestling, there was a story being told, but they need to pick and choose where they do quote unquote spots. I'm not talking wrestling spots. I'm talking, Fandango going over to Velvet and their interaction.
Right.
Either do it before the match starts or after the match. Well, we know what happened after the match, so why couldn't that have been something that he went over, confronted Velvet, she slapped him, it lit a fire under him, and he goes back into the ring and starts beating the hell out of whoever his opponent is. Pick and choose where you do certain things in a match, and it can change it.
Yeah.
For the better or the worse.
Right. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign that Velvet's manager bound at some point, that whole stuff with
Possibly.
Angelina Love, and maybe something with Dirty Dango. I don't know. Rick Del Santos here. Pro
Hey, Rick.
Wrestle Zone. Check it out. Rick's a friend of ours and us to him. Glad to see
For
you.
joining.
What's that?
Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Ella Envy versus Kenzie Page. Now I gotta tell you, this is of course Celebration 74, and I want the detail that if you want details for all this stuff, please tune in tomorrow for 8 p.m. for the Alliance Guys, the original podcast, and as Jay and DK and Jaden will go into all of those details. But I wanted to point out, again, the rosters around this ring, and there is a good energy to this show. Cringe-worthy segment. Rick is absolutely right, but there is some people here with some vested interest in seeing allies or foes or just keeping the show energized.
And to that note, I will say that I felt that match kind of was for the talent more than for us per se, because the crowd was really behind it. You got the "This is awesome" chants.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe I don't know.
It
I
was almost
scratch
like
my
a,
head at times.
yeah, I mean, there's some new talent on this show too, and it makes me wonder if it was you guys take a rest for this show, and we're going to entertain our own, people, having an office party kind of.
Yeah.
We do get Ella Envy versus Kenzie Page as promised from NWA USA. But as they're about to fight, Mercurio's out with Haley Shadows and someone named Jay Lee. You'll have to forgive an old guy because I don't remember Jay Lee from anywhere before. There's something about they're going to come into the ring and fight for his love. So there's what was promised to us on NWA USA, a match between Pretty Empowered. Now it's a tag match against them. Kenzie pins Jay Lee after a double super kick by Pretty Empowered. There's no singles match here, but they yell at the Hex, who's at ringside. The Hex comes into the ring. Ella smacks Allison Kay. It's a free-for-all, and Kenzie Page gets left behind at the mercy of the Hex, who just give her the beating of a lifetime. Now, the important takeaway in the story is that Ella doesn't go back into the ring after being tossed out. She's concerned about the belts that are in there that the Hex have and are holding up, for them. She doesn't go back to save her partner. So now we're a little closer to NWA 74, the go home show, as they say, before the event. And we have further dissolution between this team. Did it change your opinion any more, Dave, one way or the other, about Pretty Empowered coming out of 74? Or did it just kind of solidify that that's probably they're probably not coming out of this as champs?
It solidified for me. I mean, to me, it's going to be a loss due to miscommunication.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anything, like I had said before, I'm not sure if keeping them as a tag team is the best. That you have a blow off and Kenzie comes out as the quote unquote survivor of the Pretty Empowered team, and down the line have her go with the women's TV title if they're going to build her up. I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, Ella is a good wrestler. They can still wrestle as a tag team on the independents.
Right.
It's time for I think a split and get the tag titles back on the Hex and let them continue defending them out and about, not just in the NWA, but everywhere they go, they defend that belt.
Right. And Jeremy, it's a built-in, to Dave's point, if you have Kenzie say after this team breaks up, maybe become the first NWA women's television champion. It's a built-in feud with some heat to it right away. If Ella's crazy, or it's the other way around. If Ella wins it,
Right.
and Kenzie's going to take it from her and show her who's what. What did you think of this particular match and how it all kind of came apart for Pretty Empowered?
I didn't care for the Mercurio coming out and saying, "Oh, they're going to fight for my love." That just kind of seemed misogynistic in a sense, and just kind of dismissive of the two talents as well. We just saw Haley Shadows last week, I believe it was, and she had a pretty decent debut. And then to come out and they just they get squashed immediately, that kind of halted her. And then the Jaylee wrestler, where did she come from? Was she just kind of hanging around out back? Did she pop up at the door, and sneak in? Did Mercurio bring her in his duffel? Where did she come from?
Yeah, it was strange. Like, I don't know. Again, the office party vibe is like, you guys sit back and we'll bring in someone to, cater this particular event for you.
Yeah.
Nobody here should have to do any work. But it is what it is, and we'll see what happens at 74 between those two. We get Trevor Murdoch, the world's heavyweight champion, out with Kyle. He's got about, I don't know, 45 seconds on the mic, and you got it, and that's all that he needs. And Kyle said, he's slow talking, and Kyle, basically just puts the mic in front of him. He says, 74, I'm coming home, and hell's coming with me. I'm bringing hell with me, I think is what he says. Somebody watched Tombstone recently, but it works. It works for Trevor Murdoch with the Duster, with the persona. Jeremy, I think you like this one.
This was gold. It just, him coming home and hell's coming with him, and he's doing this in St. Louis. This one's for you, Willie. I sure hope hell is a buffet.
Yeah. Hey, Poyo's here. Welcome, Poyo.
Welcome, Puyo. Thank you for joining.
It's funny, Dave. There's there's a lot of. The main event of night two is Murdoch versus Tyrus, and there's no problems between these two guys at all. And
Nope.
what kind of started off for me as a, weeks ago as a, oh, what happened to all this? I don't want to see Tyrus in the main event, has completely turned around for me. I'm interested in seeing this match, and it doesn't bother me that there's no face to face, there's no attacks from behind, there's no confrontations at all. It's the champ is here doing his Harley Race, Stan Hansen, kind of homage, and Tyrus is staying quiet. He's undefeated, and he's coming for the title. What did you think of the segment, and are you looking forward to 74 between them?
I'm definitely looking forward to the match. I don't see it as a long match
Right.
due to the size of both competitors. But it's just wrestler against wrestler, champion against champion. Granted, the 10 pounds of gold is the only title that's on the line. But I mean, it gave me vibes of Harley Race when he was doing that promo.
Yep.
I mean, I got goosebumps, and I'm like, it's one of these things of Harley used to do it, Jake Roberts used to do it. You don't have to scream.
Nope.
You talk in a low, get your point across, and then leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why does it have to take 3 minutes when it can take 45 seconds?
That's right.
Come in, say what you mean what you say, and exit. Let your talking be done in the ring.
And we are all loving this version of Trevor Murdoch. To Poyo's, we're speaking to Poyo's point here. It's just a high stakes match between two big guys. Maybe it doesn't need a sneak attack. It does not. There's too many of them of that type of thing in pro wrestling.
Yep.
This is just. I look forward to this match just based on the foundation of it, if that makes any sense. Just you've put it on paper, and that's really right now all I need to see. I would have liked to have seen something like this, like at some point in the past week or two, where Trevor comes out as Tyrus is walking back to the curtain, and just kind of a pass each other moment. I thought like something like that would have been cool, but honestly, it doesn't need much more than it's already had. So it's going to be good. Perhaps short, but good. We get the Spectaculars with Rolando, which is especially visually amusing because, Pearson, Freeman have got to be 6'5" or bigger, each. But they are the Spectaculars, and it is their debut as a tag team in the NWA, which means they're going to eat the look up at the lights at some point tonight. But we do get a chance to see them in action against the NWA World Tag Team Champions. Go on, buddy. Hurry up. There you go. That's the cat. The Commonwealth Connection. And he's over there now. Apologies. So Rolando right off in the back is like, he's yelling at the Commonwealth Connection, "Don't you dare touch these guys. That's my little brother. You'll have to deal with me." In kind of a funny spot, we have Harry Smith just kind of pick him up and put him on the outside. There's anyway, Rush essentially gets beat up by Harry Smith. Doug Williams beats up Brady Pierce. This is largely the Commonwealth connection and control. They do get some spots in. The Spectaculars do. As I said earlier, these guys are crazy green, and I kind of like it because you can see how they're spotlighting some people and putting some effort for NWA NWA USA on these teams, and now here on Power to bring them up. But it is relatively short work, Jeremy, for the Commonwealth connection who hit. I think they call it the chaos theory to win. What did you think of the match and the tag team debut of the Spectaculars?
To echo your point, they are still kind of green, but there's a lot of talent there that you can see under the surface. I like to see. I want to see more of them before I give any kind of judgment call on where they're going to go or anything. But it was a decent debut by them. They got in some good, solid offense, and Harry and Davey made them look good. Helped them out a lot.
Yeah, Dave. I said green, and I say it respectfully from two guys who are physically gifted, and in the Spectaculars, and obviously I don't even have to talk about the Commonwealth connection. They are two veterans who obviously really know their craft. Do you like the upside to the Spectaculars, gimmick or otherwise?
I do like that the NWA are building their own teams, and they already have. I mean, they'll be in the Battle Royal, and with the teams that are in there, they already have history with a few of them.
Right.
So, I mean, Ill Begotten definitely. And, I mean, then you go, Ill Begotten has been going against Miserably Faithful. So, I mean, you're setting up several teams that can basically round robin each other. That you have 3 or 4 teams on the lower end that can be used to go for the U.S. tag titles. They may not win. I'm not sure who's going to win, but you're establishing teams that already have interacted in the past. So they have a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove going into the Battle Royal and coming out of the Battle Royal.
Yeah, Poyo agrees. They could really gel with a little time and opportunity and really become something special.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. And I don't know that they're going to be coming out of the tag team Battle Royal with belts around their waists. But I do look forward to the upside with these guys and seeing where this goes. I have kind of I forgot the ending here, though. I didn't announce the ending. This is a separate point. At the end of this, the Ill Begotten Boys attack the Spectaculars in the ring. So we get Jeremiah Plunkett and Alex Taylor, and even Danny Deals is out here, and they're taking care of business in the ring when the Miserably Faithful attack them. And it's just this, as the show kind of goes off the air, it's this big fight in the center of the ring. It's mass chaos. CJ makes me laugh so hard as I'm trying to see, as she walks with the numbers inverted, 47, across the front of the ring, just doing her shtick. Good for her. You got 3 teams involved in potentially in this. You got the Ill Begotten Boys with the Spectaculars, as Poyo says several months ago after meeting Grady. I immediately said they should team. She's very excited to see it happen. And that it would be my guess maybe those 3 become the teams initially challenging for the U.S. tag team titles. Yeah. We've lost Jeremy. I'm sure he'll be back. So it looks like it could be a three-way feud moving forward, Dave. Is there interest there with you? Do the Miserably Faithful, excuse me, does that add any element to it that interests you?
Well, yes and no. It does. I mean, I could really care less what teams are involved, but the teams that are involved have veterans that are in those teams. I mean, Plunkett. Alex Taylor's young, but he's coming along. I mean, Sal. And then, I mean, if you know who Gags the Gimp is, you know. If not, all I can say is that gentleman has been wrestling for quite a while.
Right.
You have experience in the ring going against a new tag team with some guys that they may be rookies, they may have a few years in, but they aren't veterans. But when you work with veterans, it makes the whole match better. I mean, if they're willing to work together, listen and learn, I mean, this team, who knows where they could go.
You know, it was interesting earlier when Rush Freeman, as I said, invoked the name of Captain Yuma. And I thought that there was something maybe that potentially could happen around this in the future. So maybe it is important that the Miserably Faithful is involved in this as well. But we will leave it at that. That is Celebration 74, right up against NWA 74, the 74th anniversary, which is, of course, this Saturday and Sunday, 2-night extravaganza. And we hope all of you guys are tuning in. Again, doesn't seem to be we seem to be having intermittent streaming issues on Twitch. So I'm sorry if there's comments here that I'm not seeing. My apologies for that. But let's move into something I've wanted to talk about for a while on a round table. Man, I know we're going long. We always do when this comes. Well, we always do anyway. But whenever I put this one up as a potential topic, we always seem to run extra long. Should the NWA revise its record of world's heavyweight champion? This is a really loaded question that probably deserves its own 45 minutes at one point. But I do want to touch on it. And I think everyone has. Let me tell you what started it quick before I shoot it to you guys. I saw this here. If I can get this. This is the. That's terrible. I gotta find a better thing than that. Whoo! Look at that. All right, I'm gonna do this. Sorry about this, Dave. I'll break it down quick. This is the back of the 10 Pounds of Gold DVD series, you know, that celebrates the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And there were names on it. Names like Bobo Brazil. Names like Carlos Colon. There are other names that I'll get to a second. And it initially just made me feel, okay, somebody who was responsible for putting those names just went to Wikipedia and put those names in, because those names are listed in the Wikipedia article for the NWA. The NWA itself has, to my knowledge, no public record of who they consider champions or otherwise, but at different times in the past have said that they didn't recognize or did recognize champions for certain periods of time. I thought we'd just touch on a couple of them. Bobo Brazil, back in 1962, he defeated Buddy Rogers for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but he hit him in the groin at one point. And the way he won was that Rogers was unable to continue. And Bobo refused the championship. He returned it. And I wonder if years later, Willie's got it right here, actually. Bobo defeated Rogers, and yeah, there you go. He said February. I think it was October, but he could be right. He was never recognized as champion. If he was, he would be the first African American world champion ever recognized by the NWA, which of course, as we know, is celebrated in the NWA. I'm saying specifically because Ron Simmons was a WCW world champion, but we recognize. Say the name, please. Oh my God! At this moment, it's Ron Killings. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to put this back up. Is it important now in 2022 to go back and recognize that, however short it may have been, for a moment, Bobo was world champion? Let's talk about Ron Killing. Thank you, Poyo. Is it important that we go back and recognize, or I say we all the time like I'm the NWA, but it's because we're emotionally invested and we think of it as ours. In today's day and age, should we be going back and revising that particular history? Poyo says no, you can't do that. But let me give you a couple of other examples because I think some apply more than others. So Jack Veneno, he beat Ric Flair in September of '82 to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in Santo Domingo. I believe, if I remember it correctly, the time limit goes off as Flair's in Veneno's sleeper. The arm drops for the third time. Now, we all kind of know the story that the Willie says yes, by the way. We all kind of know the story in that he was announced as World Heavyweight Champion because it was a setting where there were safety issues, and they weren't sure that Ric Flair or any of the visiting parties to Santo Domingo would be getting out of there without being harmed. The belt was later returned under the guise that Veneno said, "I don't want to tour around the world. I'm gonna stay right here." Should he be recognized as world champion? Poyo says they weren't recognized in the moment. It wouldn't make any sense to do so now. I think it's a good point. Doty's not here tonight, but he spoke up on Twitter about Carlos Colon. He said the other guys, he think that they should maybe be recognized, but Carlos not so much. He defeated Ric Flair as well in January of '83. And this was neither made official nor aired by the NWA. There was a phantom title change that was in itself never even recognized. And I'm sure this is one of those matches that when Flair says, "I'm a 21-time world champion," actually, that that he's talking about. To a lesser degree as well, you've got the Midnight Rider, which Dusty Rhodes could be recognized as having another reign if the mask rule that Bob Geigel, had put in, or I don't know if Bob Geigel put it into effect, the NWA had it into effect. Dusty was under suspension. He beat Flair for the title. Geigel presented him with the belt and told him to take the mask off because of this mask rule, but Dusty couldn't take it off or he'd be suspended. If he beat Flair, isn't he world champion for a few moments until he can no longer do it? I wonder if these names should be added to the list. Jeremy, you're beside me now in the center of the screen, or no, Dave, excuse me. Hang on one sec, Jeremy. Dave, you're in the center of the screen right now. I will ask you: is there any value to the NWA recognizing these people now as champions, and do you think they should do it or not?
Well, in my opinion, the past is the past. It tells a story. But like when Bobo won, it was back in the 60s, early 60s. There was a lot of racial tension.
Yep.
I'm not sure how well a man of color would have been able to tour and defend that belt without serious problems coming against him or any of the other wrestlers that may have been at matches involved storyline wise. I mean, it's almost like a two-headed coin. There's the good and the bad.
There really
Right.
is.
They did win, but being that wrestling, quote unquote, makes its own rules, there really is no, it's by the book. There is no quote unquote rule book that you can physically pick up and look at.
Yeah, and to kind of that point, it is a sports-based presentation. And if I'm trying to think of an example, I wish I thought of one beforehand, but let's say Buster Douglas, who knocked out Mike Tyson years ago in a boxing ring to win the world's championship, had said, you know what, I don't feel good about it. I'm going to relinquish the title back to Mike, even if that had been allowed for whatever reason. Whatever sport that is, boxing or anything else, they still would have been recognized as a world champion, even if it's for 5 minutes. And so, Jeremy, what about you? Do you think that Pollo's right? Back then, she writes, it's the norm that nearly every territory saw a contested world title change, and it goes against the storytelling methods of that era, and it would erase the stories in all caps of those controversies spelled out. Like you'd be wrecking the stories that were told back then for the sake of recognizing them now. What do you think?
I agree with that. I also think that that the NWA could say, hey, this is why we don't recognize them as the champions, because this was what was going on as the time. And they could wrap it up in that as, and the reason why we don't is because these are the stories that were told.
Right.
We recognize, yes, this person did technically win the belt, but because of the situations of the time, being the politics inside or outside of the building, this is why it's not in our lineage.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't know the answer. Pollo's made an excellent point about the storytelling and the methods of the time and erasing the stories that these controversies created. I hadn't thought about that one, to be honest. I think this is worth a deeper discussion. Maybe on a weekend we'll get us and the other Alliance boys together. Maybe we can get Pollo to come on that particular show too, and put in. I'd love to hear what some other people as well. Maybe we can get a big roundtable on this on a weekend show in the near future. I think it's really, like, we live in a time now where nobody likes the idea of revisionist history, but
Right.
It's nice to recognize at the same time the efforts and the achievements of those that weren't recognized in the past. So it's an interesting discussion. Thank you guys, and Pollo as well for your comments. We'll talk about it moving forward. Let's do those UWN results, my friend. From Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Memphis.
We start off with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and we open with a recap of Aaron Roberts' attack on Zay Washington and Zicky Dice. Then we jump to Dustin Starr with Ryan Rembrandt. He comes out, and he's remarkable, has a lot of momentum, and he's disgusted by the Memphis crowd, and he's issuing an open Fat Boy challenge. The answer of that challenge is the master of Fat Jitsu, K. Toomer, and makes short work of Ryan Rembrandt. Wins with the Big Bang. After that, we get Dustin with K. Toomer K Toomer is going to put something so cold on Big Con. He'll be asking his mama how to spell Pythagorean theory or Pythagorean theorem. I had to look that up. It's basically if you split a square at an angle, it's still a square, even though it's two triangles that equal the same mass or area.
Yeah, that's way back for me, man. That's like, I don't know, junior high or something like that. The Pythagorean theorem. Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard it before, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. Then we've got the Hot Shots, Ethan Ross with Coach Klein. Last week we had a segment where the Hot Shots debuted at the Wrestle Center and they were kind of picking on Kid Wrestling. So for this match, we got Kid Wrestling, and he comes out with Big Ben Bishop. Big Ben is in the ring with Ethan Ross. Big Ben wins with the Cobra Clutch, which he calls the Meat Pop Drop. And again, Big Ben Bishop, this guy's got just star written all over him. Then we get a reminder that Teddy Long is coming to confront Hollywood Jimmy Blaylock. Then we get a segment with Big John Dalton, trainee at the Wrestle Center. He wants Memphis Heritage Champion Mike Anthony, but Dustin said he's only 17 and he can't. It's the law. But there's plenty to do around the Wrestle Center. WrestleCenter901.com for all your wrestle training needs. Then we get LA Hustlers versus the Dysfunction. Kyle Roberts and Brandon Espinoza with DNA. Dysfunction steals the win after DNA took advantage of a distracted ref and Kyle Roberts pins Notorious Lamont. Then we get Dangerous Diana Taylor versus Nyx with the Click's personal referee Ray Ray. Jimmy Blaylock was attacked by a fan mid-match in this. While that was going on, Diana Taylor gets Nyx's head in between a folding chair and is about to do a stomp off of the second rope whenever Cassandra Golden comes out to make the save. Then we get a reminder that Will Allday is coming back to Memphis. Will Allday is from Reality of Wrestling, Booker T's wrestling program. Then we get a little segment of Mike Anthony taking a tour of the Mid-South Coliseum. And that was kind of nice, a little bit of history there. Then we get our main event is the tables match between Memphis Muscle, the Gun Show Bret Michaels, and Big Swole Justin Cole with King Cobra versus Pay Up, Big Jack, and Brother Bruce with Money Mark. The Gun Show gets the win for Memphis Muscle by putting Brother Bruce through the table, all while staring down Mike Anthony. The tension between these two is at a boiling point. Nothing comes of it. Mike Anthony stands up, kind of runs his mouth a little bit, but then just kind of waves it off and goes to the back. Then we go to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and this is the Golden Opportunity Part 1. We start off with a match between Willie Mack, Levi Shapiro, and Lord Crew with Halston Body. Willie Mack advances after a 6-star from the top onto Levi Shapiro. All three men look really good in this match. At the end, though, Willie it was Willie Mack. I was just so happy to see him get his arm raised. I would have been happy if anybody did, but to see Willie advance, it warmed the heart for me. Then we get a segment with Jack Banning. He's going to go into his semifinal match in the Golden Opportunity by himself. He wants to show the institution that while there is strength in numbers, they can also conquer by themselves. Then we jump straight into that match between him, Shane Haste, and Danny Limelight. Limelight secures his spot in the finals after locking a rear naked choke on Jack Banning, who had a guillotine locked on Shane Haste. That was quite the little finisher there in the middle of the ring. We jump to a segment with Jeremy McPeak and Beef Candy. The Midnight Heat have bitten off more than they can chew with with Beef Candy, and next week Beef Candy are going to show them just that and why they are the champions and they shall retain. Then we go to Jeremy McPeak with Chris Bay. Bay is going to finesse Bateman and Rust in his upcoming match. He's not sure who Rust is, but he's beaten Bateman before. It wasn't there in UWN, but it'll be an easy job for him. And then he'll go on to the next round, finesse them, and then go on and become the main event. Then we go to our main event, which is the final Golden Opportunity semifinal between Bateman, Tyler Rust, and Chris Bay. Bateman ends up winning this on a pin by Rust, advancing him to the Golden Opportunity. This will give him if he wins this, he'll have a number one contender spot for the championship. But he has to win against Willie Mack or Danny Limelight. So we'll see how that turns out. We've got 2 more weeks of this. Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, man, like we say all the time, if you're not watching UWN, find the time.
Yep.
This is, we're an NWA podcast, and the UWN is obviously there's so much crossover in the past with Dave Marquez, and his product is arguably some of the best NWA products from our past in the NWA, right? So I urge you to watch United Wrestling Network. There's some great stuff going on over there. Dave Scooby is our fantasy booker. And Dave, right now you've got Aaron Stevens. He's managing Rodney Mack. He's mentoring Casey Rocks. He's dating May Valentine. He's got a lot going on. Is it too much, and where's it all going?
I'm not really sure. I just know I do miss seeing Aaron wrestle. Going all the way back to Aaron Idol, Aaron Stevens. I remember seeing him in OVW back when tape trading was a deal, was a thing. I'm not sure if he decided to step away or what the reason is. I just miss seeing him wrestle. Anybody he wrestles with, he makes better. The story he tells, he learned the right way. If I'm not mistaken, in OVW, when he was there, Rip Rogers was there as one of the trainers. If Aaron is taking over and doing what Rip did in OVW, that's a plus for the NWA. If he works with the up-and-comers, that's great. I'm not really sure where the story is with him and Rodney. I do know that they've said that Rodney helped him out back when he started, so now he's basically watching Rodney's back and assisting him. Rodney really doesn't need anybody to talk for him, to be a manager. But if it gets Aaron Stevens on the show, I'm saying I'm thinking it's a positive thing. I'd love to see him wrestle again. I'm not really sure what the storyline is with him and May, because then May is playing to Tyrus. Well, then Tyrus ends up getting in the ring this past week, standing there, and Aaron backs up into him, and are they going to have a confrontation?
Yeah.
But then if you also look at what they do outside the ring and outside of the NWA, Aaron is also involved, along with Trevor and Tyrus and a few other people, doing the Three Wise Men podcast.
Right.
If you have a chance, give that a listen. It's a good listen. Not so much having to keep kayfabe in this day and age, but I'd like to see them draw a line somewhere. That if they're going to try to have a story, keep it kayfabe as much as you can.
Right. And keep it clean too. Yeah. Like, I mean, separate things out. Give us defined borders.
But I mean, I'm not really sure where the storyline is going, why he chose to step away from wrestling, but not step away from the NWA completely.
Mhm.
He has a very good mind for the business, and I'd like to see him make his return. I like the more serious Aaron Stevens, but he plays whatever role you give him or whatever role is given to him to its fullest. I mean, he can do comedy.
Yep.
He can be serious. He can be a wrestler. He can be a spokesperson. He can be a pirate.
Right.
I mean, I miss some of that stuff, and I know some of that goes back to the question mark Josephus doing some of the pirate stuff and the question mark and all that. I just hope he stays with the NWA and helps it grow wherever he can. If it's in the ring, if it's as a manager, if it's as an announcer, whatever. He's a commodity for the NWA.
I agree. And you know what's funny is, like, I'm enough of a old curmudgeon that I generally don't care for comedy in my wrestling. Thank you very much. Generally speaking. You know, but Aaron Stevens, and I'm talking about over the top stuff. Aaron Stevens with the question mark made me smile every single time.
Mhm.
He was that good, and he was good in the ring, good when he's serious. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I got goosebumps that week when he was, you know, challenging for the 10 pounds of gold on Power, and in you know, carrying the question marks Josephus's mask with him. You know, he touched us. So he certainly has that ability. And I think you're right. I hope that he sticks around and that there's something solid and defined that is, you know, that is found for him. I appreciate that. That's it. That's it for us. We are the only 1 hour podcast that takes an hour and 40 minutes to get through. We're never going to get tired of saying that. Thank you both for staying on so long when we all really kind of just pledged an hour to something like this. Thank you to everybody in the chat who has spoken up today. I apologize again for the Twitch streaming problems that we've been having. But hey, this is podcasting. It's not like we're super pros at this.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, thank you again. Thanks everybody. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.